Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palma. How you doing, my brother?
Been talking about it for a couple years, friend. It is wild card weekend. It is
wild card weekend.
good time for the year.
And that means that the playoffs have officially begun, and we are so excited to begin with this wild card weekend. There will be no Week 18 recap. We've talked about the teams long enough, and for those who made it to the playoffs, congratulations. For those who did not, we wish you a better season. We'll talk plenty of teams in the offseason, but we want to just get right into it and just start making our picks and talking about these games. So let's start with Saturday's slate of games, starting with the Chargers versus the Texans. Oh man, starting off wildcard weekend strong. CP, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, like you said again, congratulations to every team that made it NFC, AFC. And starting with this game, I love this game. But it has a different feel to it. Again, going into this year, the Houston Texans were my bold prediction to make it to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at it now, I don't necessarily see that as the case. The absence of Tank Dell is deafening when it comes to that Houston offense.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people really understood just how cohesive him and CJ Stroud were as a unit. CJ Stroud looks lost without him on the field. They're playing a totally different level of football without him. Going up against this Chargers defense, I don't think is going to really bode well for them at all. Since that injury, the Texans have changed entirely. They're not the team that's feared anymore. Now they're just understood and they can be beat. They can be beat. Congratulations to Harbaugh to make the playoffs on his first season back in the NFL.
Oh yeah,
real big shout out to him. He's gotten the Chargers to where they want it to be. Now I want to see if they can bring in a playoff win. I love this game.
This is a great game to start wild card weekend off. I was thinking about this earlier, and I look at this game, and I'm like, who in this game needs the win the most? Like, who really needs this win? And I thought about it, and I'm like, Justin Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Herbert really needs this win. And we know the legacy of Jim Harbaugh, both in the NFL and in the college level, and he's will always be a great football mind, and the Chargers are going to, if they continue to have him as their head coach, they're going to find great success with him as their head coach. The Texans, they took a step back than last year, right? But they still won the AFC South. They're still their second straight division title under D'Amico Ryan and CJ Stroud. They're in the playoffs, which is nice, but as we spoke about a couple weeks back, they are limping into the playoffs. They are not really coming in like, say, the Ravens on a winning streak, right? Texans have been on a losing streak for a while, and they did win last week against the Titans, which is nice. But now you have the Chargers coming into town. And when I look at this game, CJ Stroud already has a playoff win. D'Amico Ryan has a playoff win, right? Justin Herbert has been in the leagues for, was it nearly 5-6 years?
It was his sixth year, yeah.
Has not had a single playoff win. And it's been a struggle for him and the Chargers to make the playoffs for a couple of years.
Let alone get a win.
Exactly. And so now Chargers come into town against a very vulnerable Texans team, and this Chargers team looks, I wouldn't say the best it's been since Justin Herbert's been in the league, but I think they are, because they look like a very complete team. Whereas in years past, like the Chargers, either their offense has been great or their defense has sucked, or no one has been able to stay healthy. And I think that for this game, if anyone needs to just get the monkey off their back and who needs a win, it's Justin Herbert, man. He's put in enough time and enough blood, sweat, and tears on that field to really show and prove that he can win these games. And the Chargers in the last couple of weeks, when they've been in big games, big primetime games, they've stepped up. And I gotta really commend just the Chargers as a whole team effort. This game is just going to be, it's such a great one to kick off the weekend. But again, let's flip it over to the Texans side. They've just been struggling on offense. And I do agree with you there. The absence of Tank Dell has really made their offense a lot more linear and a lot more predictable, because what that does now is, like, you don't really have an outside option to challenge the corners one-on-one or for that deep ball, right? The safeties are coming up into the box, and it makes it harder on the run game. It makes it harder to keep CJ Stroud untouched by sacks. It makes it harder for him to even get throws off to his other wide receivers. So I think that the Texans is, like, this has just been kind of a sophomore slump for them this year. I think that going into next year, they should be looked at as another good team, another good, viable team in the AFC, right? But this year is just not the way to end off, right? And it's only going to get harder from here, right? It's just they might have to play either the Ravens or the Bills, and then the Chiefs, and then the path to the Super Bowl for the Texans is very tough, and even for the Chargers as well. It's very tough in the AFC, right? It's going to be an absolute gauntlet for anyone who wants to even contend for it. But both of these teams have earned the right to be here, and they both are kind of like on that equal playing level and stuff. I just want to see who takes that step. Who takes that next step into being from a good team to, okay, they can be a great team.
Yeah, I agree with that. Also, shout out to the Chargers for picking up Ezekiel Elliott for the playoffs.
Oh, did they really? I
Yes,
didn't
they
know
did.
that.
They
Oh,
picked him up
wow.
yesterday on the practice squad. So
Look
Ezekiel
at
Elliott is
see.
officially a playoff contending running back.
Well, he was never going to be that with the Cowboys.
Well, one and dones count, I guess.
One and done's, yeah.
But yeah, no, he's on the Chargers for this upcoming game. I wonder if they're going to sign him to the roster.
Man, I mean, we shall see. I know that J.K. Dobbins is still out for the year, so they still have Gus Edwards, but he's coming off injury as well. So they really do need the running back depth. And I think that the Chargers right now, they have really shown that they have a good foundation for a good contending team. And so do the Texans, but obviously both teams need work, right? I think that it's the Texans being that they're in they have the luxury of being in the AFC South compared to the Chargers, who have to be in the AFC West with the Chiefs every year. So both of their paths to the playoffs can change and as the years go on. But this year they meet right here on this Saturday night, or this Saturday during the day. And man, this should be a really good game. Now, CP, I was going to say, if you remember from last year, we always picked the games after we talked about them in the playoffs. So I want to ask you right here, right now.
Oh my God.
Chargers Texans. Who you got?
You know what? I'm going to think there's a little bit of that magic left in LA. You're going to have to give me the Chargers. And it's really, I have to agree with you when it comes to Jim Harbaugh and really elevating that team to being as complete as they are. He has brought a different mindset when it comes to the offensive scheme and run game. He has brought a totally different mindset to crunch time. He has built them a 2-minute game. He has really brought that defense together to play as a unit with a bunch of journeymen and a bunch of nice veterans in the game now. That team is very complete, and they can win a playoff game. And without Tank Dell, I don't know that Houston can win a playoff game this year.
Yeah, this is such a good one. I'm going to go with the Chargers as well. I think that the Chargers have a top 3 scoring defense, right? Their defense has really not allowed a lot of points so far. And the Chargers, they have they have that same. We've seen it a lot of the league, a lot of old school coaches where it's like we're going to run the ball, ground and pound, minimal turnovers on by the quarterback, and a solid defense to back us up. Complementary football throughout. Those are a lot of. That's a very old school football ideology that still works in today's league. We see it with the Chargers. We see it with the Steelers, right? We see it with the Broncos this year, especially, and we see it with the Chiefs as well. I mean, even though they do have a good amount of turnovers, but that's kind of like what their play style has evolved into, right? I think that for the Chargers and the Texans lack the explosive firepower to really get down the field on offense. So if this game is going to be a ground and pound game, I think the Chargers are going to be the better teams to perform that ground and pound game.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you.
So what a game to start off the wild card weekend. But Chris Palmer, we have ourselves a round 3 on Saturday night. Steelers come to Baltimore to play the Ravens. This is the first time in Steelers-Ravens rivalry history that a playoff game has been in Baltimore. All the other times it's been in Pittsburgh. This is the first time that the Steelers have to come to Baltimore
First
in a
time you
playoff
guys are
game.
hosting.
First time for everything, mate. But Chris Palmer, I give the torch to you, my friend. Give me your thoughts.
You're hosting.
Oh, no, you want?
You're
I'm
hosting.
You want me to start?
Yeah, man. You
Okay.
started because you're the host.
Okay. I think first off, I'm really excited for this game. Saturday night primetime, and it's exactly where it needs to be. Under the bright lights in playoff scenario, right? And it's fitting that we have to meet each other, right? Where it's like, look, if either of us want to really, both have kind of struggled in the playoffs in recent years. Steelers as a team have struggled in the playoffs as a year. They struggled to win a playoff game since 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a couple years since the Steelers have won a game. Whereas the Ravens, it's been more of a Lamar struggle. Not so, like, I mean, we know John Harbaugh has a lot of success as like in the playoffs, but it's our team will go as far as Lamar takes us, right? And Lamar has struggled in the playoffs in his career, right? He's 2-4, and he has not played well in any of those games except like the Texans game last year. But that was pretty much it, right? That's been the only good game that he's performed in, right? And so it's fitting that if either team kind of needs to shake that or like just shake the monkey off their back, it's got to be against each other, right? If the Steelers want to win a playoff game, you got to do it against the Ravens. If the Ravens want to prove that, because we've had Super Bowl aspirations all year, if we want to prove that we are a contending team for a Super Bowl, we have to beat the Steelers. It's only fitting that it comes down to this Saturday night, round 3.
Saw this shit coming from a fucking mile away, dude. That's really the most fucked up part about this. As the season came to a close, you and I, we spoke about this off air, that I saw this shit coming, that we were going to have a round 3.
I was really hoping that it was going to like work out that way.
I saw that shit coming, and I just didn't. I was hoping it would be the other way around, where we would be hosting, but we decided to fucking play our worst football in the last 4 weeks. And it is like same thing with the Texans. We are limping into the playoffs again. This is like, I don't want to say the standard has changed from playoff contention to positive records, because again, to stay above 500 is a huge feat in this league. But there needs to be extended success after the regular season.
It just can't be just positive records. It needs to be more than that. It needs to be championships.
Right. And now, again, I am one of the biggest fans of Mike Tomlin. I think he is one of the best coaches of all time. I do not think he is above criticism. He needs, like you said, he needs to shake that playoff drought off. You have to do it. And this is the year that we have to do it before people last year, people were thinking you were in the hot seat. You're not. You were extended. You got an extension on your contract. That's great. Wouldn't ask for it any other way. You need to put together a postseason program that's going to help us win. We as fans are desperate for a playoff win. It would be so poetic that your first playoff win in 9 years comes against the Ravens. Playing them at home in their first inaugural hosting playoff game against us.
It would absolutely destroy us. It would be
crippling.
It would ruin the season. It would ruin such a great season that we've had, and it would be
it would be crippling to the rivalry. It would be crippling to the rivalry.
I would no, actually I think that would enhance the rivalry.
It would enhance it because now it's you guys need to earn that back. Now it's like we just came into your house limping and walked away.
Yeah, and like to take away a season where like we broke so many records,
franchise,
won the AFC North record, broke NFL records.
Lamar broke all-time records.
He's possible MVP, third-time MVP. It would be. I would be absolutely fucking furious. I know that for certain. Like I would just be absolutely bitter. But it would be fitting though, right?
It would be poetic.
It'd be kind of poetic, right?
But at the same time, it would be poetic to see it the other way around, where you guys come out and you stomp us.
And this is like, yeah.
And if you come out, and now we've been stomped out of the playoffs a couple years now. If you guys stomp us out of the playoffs, that's a whole nother conversation now.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, to me, this is the best rivalry in sports, and the best turnarounds come from the ass kickings that are handed in this rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys kick our ass in the divisional round. What happens next year? AFC
this is
champion.
the wild card round, but
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we meet in the AFC Championship next year because of it.
I do. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, and I do hope that whoever loses this game, because it becomes a better team for it.
And that's always what happens with these two teams when we play. It's no matter what happens, both teams come out better for it in the long run because of this rivalry and because of the sheer masterclass of coaching and preparation that goes on both sides of the ball. There is so much respect to John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin throughout the years of watching this rivalry. It's been it's the greatest rivalry in professional sports, in my opinion, and there's really no swaying me on that.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, clearly.
It's just there's no comparing, because it's just every year for years it's been one possession scores twice a year for 20 fucking years.
And but this is the first time since us doing the podcast that we've met in the playoffs.
Yep.
Which is crazy to think about too. So it's like, hey, that's a first time for us as well.
I love it.
I think. Look, let's get to the nitty gritty of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, I'm taking the Ravens, right? Clearly, but I think honestly, for the Steelers right now, like you said before, they're limping into the playoffs. I think they're limping right into their death march this game, because the Ravens are on a roll offensively and defensively. And even if Lamar does struggle, he could still rely on Derrick Henry. And that's the thing too, is like Mike Tomlin does a great job of scheming up for Derrick Henry, getting him where he needs to, like getting him down and everything like that. But Derrick Henry's been having a year, man. The fact that he was 70 yards shy of another 2,000-yard season this year he's the first running back to have 2 seasons with 1,900 and plus yards, which is pretty crazy. But that, like, 2,000-yard seasons, I mean, I'm smelling a bold prediction for next year. But
oh my God,
I think that when you look at these two teams, look, the Ravens, I've been just again locked in on like what the Ravens are like showing on media and stuff like that, on social media and everything. Everyone's locked in. Everyone knows what we like. We are all dead set to win a Super Bowl, and no one's bullshitting one another. Everyone knows why they're there, and everyone has faith in each other that they can do this. And I think that the Ravens this year are better set up to win the Super Bowl now than they were last year, because they have been battle tested this season. Like they have really been battle tested, and I think that we need to start marching our way back to Kansas City, because that's the only way we're going to ever reach that pinnacle of what we think we can do. But it has to start here. It has to start against the Steelers. And so clearly I'm taking the Steelers, but CP, what?
You mean you're taking the Ravens?
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. No, Steelers, upset. No, Ravens. I'm taking the Ravens.
So, I love Derrick Henry, and I'll be honest, he is one of two running backs this year where you can confidently say they are one move away from making for a touchdown every time they touch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is Saquon Barkley.
Yep.
Those are the two running backs this year that you can confidently say every time they touch the ball, they are one move or one broken tackle away from breaking it for a touchdown. And that is such a tall order for anyone to answer. But when you have one of the greatest master chess players of all time coaching your team, you know you have it made. You're going to have a plan. I got to go with Pittsburgh and keep this faith that Mike Tomlin is going to prepare.
You think he's going to get the monkey off his back this game?
I have to believe, man. We, like you said, we earned our spot here. We earned it in every way, shape, and form. Yeah, we're coming off of 4 really bad losses. Remember, this game is a game of chess, not a game of checkers.
I know, mate, but we talked off air about this. The Steelers have
It's the tone in which our slump has happened. I understand.
Yeah, they have not scored more than 17 points in the slump, and they've only scored over 30 points
three times
this year.
Right.
So I think that again the Steelers have that philosophy of ground and pound, minimal turnovers, and hard defense. And I think that when we look at the last time we played, what was the key points in the game? The turnovers.
Correct.
Like the one turnover early off by Russell Wilson and the pick 6 to seal the game. And so this game is going to be won on a few plays. This game is not. It's not going to be a blowout like Ravens stacked on points at the end there. Nope. This game is going to be decided by a few plays. And this is exactly. I hope this game lives up to exactly why you and I love the Ravens and Steelers rivalry so much.
Especially being on national TV. Just one more time.
In a playoff game.
Right.
It's only fitting.
It's only fitting that round 3 comes national TV playoffs. Best of luck, my friend.
Best of luck, my friend. Man, so let's get to Sunday's slate of games. Let's start Sunday at 1:00. The Broncos and the Bills. This is a really good one. Broncos took care of business against Kansas City last weekend, 38-0. It was a shutout. They have clinched the 7th seed, which means they have a flight to Buffalo. CP, what are your thoughts on this game?
I called Denver stealing the last wild card.
Mm-hmm.
I want that one to be known. Called that shit this year that Bo Nix is going to have them steal a wild card, that they would need help.
And they're in.
I love this game. This is probably one of the tallest orders that the Broncos have all year. Is playing a fresh Josh Allen playing his best football.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not 100%. Again, his non-throwing hand is still hurt. Mm-hmm. But
we saw against the Jets, that doesn't matter.
Right. That shit doesn't matter to him. But you can tell that Denver team is ready to win a playoff game. But Buffalo is ready to win a Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Well said.
So, like you were saying, Steelers walking into a death march. I think this is a death march for Denver this year. There's not many teams that can confidently say they're going to walk away from Buffalo and home in the beginning of the postseason.
Yeah, it's such a tall order, isn't it? But the Broncos, I got to give a lot of kudos to them, man. They really earned their spot this year.
They did everything they needed to.
As a complete team, under Sean Payton, he had a vision for this team. And again, it started on the defensive side. He's like, no. We're going to, again, be that ground and pound.
Control-based
minimal
team.
Turnover. Control. Yes. It seems to be a running theme here, right? For a lot of these teams, right? Because it's a football philosophy that has just proven to work. And we see that a lot in a lot of championship caliber teams. Teams that run the ball and have a solid defense are built to play in January. They are built to play in the playoffs, to play against the best of the best under the most brutal of conditions. We're in New York, right? It's not warm here in New York, right? And it's not going to be any warmer in Buffalo come Sunday, even if it is at 1:00, right? And the sun is shining. It's going to be cold, right? And it's not going to be a welcoming environment for the Broncos. And they have had a good amount of success on the road this year. However, it's how do you stop Superman? Like really,
how do you stop Josh Allen? It's just,
how do you
what the
stop
fuck?
Superman? Because this is the best version of Josh Allen that we've seen. And it's crazy too that it's happening at the same time that this is the best version of Lamar that we've seen too. So
best version of a lot of quarterbacks this year.
A lot of quarterbacks this year have really taken that step up into being that caliber that we know that they are. Lamar, Josh Allen,
Jared Goff,
Baker Mayfield. We'll get to him too. But there's been a lot of quarterbacks that really stepped up into that. But Josh Allen, he's again at that level where it's like we want him to be on that level with Mahomes, right? And like because they've had so many great games against each other, right? It's a great rivalry. But like you said, Buffalo's ready to contend for a Super Bowl. I think with this team that they have, which is crazy to think that's like they don't have many. They kind of got rid of a lot of stars this offseason, but yet they're somehow better. Defensively, they've kind of regressed a little bit. Their defense does give up a good amount of points. They are susceptible to teams that can run the ball very effectively. So that's kind of the one weakness on the Bills' defense. But however, on offense, they don't miss a beat. They can score. What was it in back-to-back games? They were scored like 40 points against the Lions and the Rams.
Right.
Absolutely fucking wild. And Josh Allen's been playing MVP caliber football. And I think that when you look at the Broncos, man, it's like they have a great defense, right? But is it good enough to stop what the Bills are doing? That's tough, man. That's really tough. And I look at this game and I'm like, I think the Broncos, they have a great future ahead of them, man. But it's the Bills. If it's not this year for the Bills, man, it's so tough because they are, like you said, primed to go after that Lombardi this year.
Yeah, 100%. They're primed for the Lombardi. I agreed with everything you had to say when it comes to Josh Allen. He is just playing like a freak of nature. But I want to take a step into the MVP conversation for a second. You got to look. It's almost obvious it's going to go to a quarterback this year, like it does every year. But when you want to look at value, my vote for MVP this year would be Josh Allen. And that's taking nothing away from Lamar Jackson. 4,000 yards passing or more, 800 yards rushing. Fucking, he's having an unbelievable year.
Mm-hmm.
When you look over at the Buffalo Bills and you look at the Baltimore Ravens, I heard this today. I know it doesn't stand for much when it comes to what the actual game entails. The Ravens have 9 Pro Bowlers on their offense.
Mm-hmm.
The Bills have 2.
Yep.
So when you want to talk about star caliber and like firepower, the Ravens supersede every chance of firepower that the Bills could even hope to have.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to talk about value. The Bills go as far as Josh Allen will bring them.
Mm-hmm.
Almost just like the Ravens go as far as Lamar Jackson brings them.
Mm-hmm.
But now Lamar Jackson has an army with him.
He does.
And Josh Allen,
He's got a second-hand man, Derrick Henry.
he has an army.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen, like you said, he's
James
fucking
Cook.
Superman.
He's got a cook.
He's doing it with so much less. And that really should be taken into account when it comes to the value part
Mm-hmm.
of the most valuable player in this league. Who does what with less?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you see in Buffalo. They got rid of everybody. They sold the house. And he was like,
Doesn't matter.
I'm going to go be the second best team in football.
We're gonna go 13-4, be the second seed in the AFC.
I'm going to play my best football too, and you're going to get rid of my star receiver.
I think, honestly, though,
which I think was probably the best decision they made.
I think, honestly, too, I think the Bills made the right move when they got Stephon Diggs and when they let go of Stephon Diggs. Because when they got Stephon Diggs, it was to help develop Josh Allen as a passer, right? And and he did, right? He kind of like helped Josh Allen become what we now consider Josh Allen to be, right? And I think that there's a lot to be said with that because now it's like when they got rid of Stephon Diggs, yeah, he's been a little problem in the locker room, so it's like you get rid of him there. But now that opens up the field for Josh Allen, and he's been playing with his eyes downfield in an open field for the whole season.
He's free to throw the ball to where he wants to throw it.
Every blade of grass is open to anyone, so long as you're playing under Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing is, for MVP discussion, I personally would not be mad either way it goes. Any which way it goes. Because I think all are deserving of it, right? I think Lamar, Josh, Saquon, they are all deserving of the MVP nods, right? And personally, I don't think, I wouldn't be mad either way. If I had a vote, I'd vote Lamar, but just because so many insane numbers, right? But I think for the Bills and for Josh Allen, I think for, like I said earlier with the Chargers, right? Who needs the win more? Who needs the MVP more? I would say Josh Allen. Because if we think of him as the caliber that he is, right? If he doesn't win the MVP this year, right? Then what's his like accolades that he has? 3-time Pro Bowler? That's it. And 3-time Pro Bowler, and you could say X ever many times they won the AFC East, right? But aside from that, that's it, right? No Super Bowl appearances, no Super Bowl, no MVP, right? I think if we think of Josh Allen as that caliber of player that we think he is, right? I think he needs that MVP more than Lamar. Because Lamar's already earned 2, right? So he doesn't need a third one, right? But has he earned the right for it? Yeah, you can make the argument, right? Yeah. But I think, like, if Josh Allen, like, were to get the MVP, I think, he's playing his best football, and this is his prime, man. Like, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of this from him, too.
I see what you're saying when it comes to him needing the MVP more, but in terms of, like, legacy conversation, when you want to talk about who Josh Allen was as a player. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you could almost say the same thing for Baker Mayfield. Mm-hmm. You know, he had his second consecutive 4,000-yard passing season, and he's going to be passed up for the fucking MVP this year totally. He's not even in the conversation, and it's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that needing the MVP, when it comes to real, like, the actual fans of the sport, who see the things that are happening, the accolades and the awards, they don't mean as much as I think the league thinks they do.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have the award that the league gives, and then you have the people's MVP.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like they're going to give it to a quarterback, but everyone knows that Saquon Barkley was the best player in football this year.
Like last year with CMC.
Right. They know it's going
And
to
they
go
gave it
to a
to Lamar.
quarterback, and they gave it to Lamar. And this year, it's going to go to a quarterback when everybody who watched this league this year knows Saquon Barkley was the most valuable player in the league this year.
I think if he broke Eric Dickerson's
They
record,
wouldn't have
I
a
think
choice, and that's why they didn't
at that
do
point you stamp that at that point. And it's unfortunate that they didn't start him, but I mean, still another 2,000-yard, rushing season. This is his best year. This was his best year that he ever had. And I mean, we can get right into the Eagles, but because we got Eagles Packers, that's a good segue. But CP, I want your picks for this Bills Broncos real quick because it's a good segue to get into it. But let's rewind it a little bit. We got to make some picks. Bills Broncos. Who you got?
Buffalo, and it's not going to come at any detriment of Denver. It's just they're on two different playing fields right now. They're two different brackets. Denver's ready for playoffs. Buffalo's ready for Super Bowl. It's just what it is.
Exactly. And it's again, how do you stop Superman when Josh Allen is Vegas favorite to win MVP this year? So, and it's like he's just playing out of his gourd, winning amazing games and just like doing it insane. He just will find what the defense is going to do, and he's just going to exploit it. And if Denver cooks up something in the meantime, I mean, then that's an upset.
That would be the upset of the year.
That would be a big upset. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think Buffalo's going to win this one.
I agree.
So second game on Sunday, Packers and Eagles. We were talking a little bit about the Eagles, right, with Saquon. And yes, I do agree with you that he had an absolute unbelievable year. Now, Nick Sirianni, he did choose to sit Saquon and a lot of the other starters on Week 18 against the Giants. They still won, but now all the starters come back. Jalen Hurts is coming back. Saquon's coming back. A.J. Brown, et cetera, et cetera. And now the Packers, they lost against the Bears last week, Week 18.
Yeah, but I looked into that. They didn't play Jordan Love.
Okay.
They lost Christian Watson. He went down to a bad injury early. He never came back. They didn't play A.J. Dillon, so a lot of their starters weren't playing. Christian Watson went down. So it was the backups and injury. They lost the game. That wasn't... At first, it was like, oh, fuck, what happened there? And then after looking like Malik Willis played, Bears are playing all their starters, Christian Watson went down, it made it more understandable.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense than...
Yeah, it made so much more sense after watching the highlights of that game after Christian Watson went down. They were a totally different offense.
Which is crazy too, because it's like now the Packers, again, they're a good team, but they're, again, limping into the playoffs. It seems like they are really beat up, right? It's crazy too, because the Packers kind of remind me like a mirror version of the Texans, except Jordan Love is more of a gunslinger than C.J. Stroud is. But again, a lot of key injuries to a lot of key skill position players that has really hindered their offensive output. And that's really what's been losing them to a lot of close games. Again, like 2 weeks ago, that game against the Vikings. Vikings got up a big lead later on as the game went on. The Packers were very slow to kind of get points on the board. I think that injury to Christian Watson, that's big.
Huge.
That's big.
And again, when I wasn't expecting to... Again, I'm just watching the highlights, and all of a sudden I see him go down. He grabs his knee, and that was like the focal point of the whole highlight video was before that happened and after that happened.
Mhm.
The entire energy of the Green Bay offense had shifted, and it just became stagnant, and it was muted. And again, I feel like a lot of people, they underappreciate the presence of really good receivers when it comes to the cohesiveness of a team.
And he tore his ACL,
Right.
so he's done.
He's done. He's not going to be until probably mid-season next year.
Mhm.
Let that one be known. He's going to be out for a long time.
Yeah.
That sucks. Oh, that sucks. I didn't even know how bad the injury was. That sucks.
Yeah, I just Googled it. But yeah, and for the Packers, let's flip it on defense, right? I got the same question for them that I do for the Broncos. How do you stop Superman? How do you stop Saquon?
Stop Saquon?
How do you
'Cause
stop
again,
Saquon?
It's, again, the same conversation with Derrick Henry. He is one move away from breaking for a touchdown, only he's going to do it faster. He's going to do it faster. Derrick Henry's going to stuff you in the dirt, and he's just going to make you look like a fool.
He's gonna stiff arm you where Saquon's gonna backwards hurdle you.
Saquon's going to do whatever he can to make you look like a child. Like you're the uncle playing with 5-year-olds at the cookout.
He makes fast people look slow.
He makes fast people look not fast.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, he is by far, again, he is the most valuable player. He changed him. Who's not going to get the award this year? He's the most valuable player who will not get the award because of the position he plays.
Yep.
He has elevated this Eagles offense to such a degree that I don't even think the Eagles expected the elevation that they got.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that they were getting like a key franchise guy when it comes to, he's a pinnacle of the city. He's loved by everybody in the locker room. He's one of those guys that you can just wrap your arms around and you can consume into the culture of your team. He wanted to do it with the Giants. They shut the door in his face. The Eagles opened the door and he was like, yeah, you got it. And he's like, I'm going to show you why I'm the best running back in this league right now.
Mm-hmm.
And hindsight being 2020, it was probably one of the most unreal situations that happened for both the Eagles and Saquon Barkley to fall into such a perfect moving piece with little to no flaws all year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Eagles, honestly, they made so many great offensive decisions that made them the team that they are now. And obviously the biggest one is getting Saquon, right? But they also got a lot of good defensive players too. What was it? Mitchell. They drafted that cornerback. Cooper DeJean.
He's an animal this year.
Both of them. Absolute studs in the secondary. Who, by the way, new defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore, and we talked about, you and I, we spoke about this since the offseason. And I was calling it from there. I was like, no, the Eagles are going to be fucking good. Saw that shit a mile away, too. I was like, no. The Eagles are... Bro, they look fucking unstoppable this year.
You want to hear a really crazy stat about Cooper DeJean, not to cut you off?
Mm-hmm.
Cooper DeJean had 73 targets on defense this year.
Mm-hmm.
How many touchdowns do you think he let up? 73 pass targets.
I'm going to say very low. So I'm going to say 1.
None.
Ooh, I was close.
Not one as a rookie.
That's insane.
You want to talk about a lock-up defenseman? This kid is a stud in the making.
He's an island.
I don't know that we're going to go into the island situation just yet.
He didn't let up a touchdown this year, mate.
He put him... Yeah, I'm not going to say he has his own island yet. That's a big conversation to have. There's only one person in this world.
His island.
There's only one person in this world who has an island, and everyone knows who that is.
Of course.
They are not in the same conversation yet. That's a little too hasty there,
It's gonna
friend.
be an island.
It's a little too hasty, friend. Let's not get hasty though.
I'm smelling a bold prediction for next year. I'm smelling a lot of them coming from this video right here.
Okay, I respect it.
A lot of bold decisions are starting to brew up here in the
Cooper,
last couple
but
weeks.
huge shout out to Cooper DeJean to really showcase what you're capable of all year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Again, so many great offseason acquisitions for the Eagles, man. Their ownership is, Eagles fans can complain all they want, but man, they have a good ownership that has, again, a good vision for the team. Nick Sirianni, again, really getting it done and making sure that his guys are ready to play. And look, the Eagles have been they are a Super Bowl contending team this year. And I don't think, like, for me, I knew the Eagles were going to be good. I didn't think they'd be this good this year. I
No.
thought Saquon was more whipped cream than Sunday. But man, he's been the whole meal. He's been a whole 5-course meal, man. He's been absolutely insane. My big question for the Eagles: How does Jalen Hurts look post concussion? He's been away from the football for a couple weeks. He hasn't played in a while. How does he look? How rusty is he real quick? To his benefit, he has Saquon to lean on, and he can just kind of, lean on Saquon for a little bit while he gets his kind of shakes off the rust, right? But let's be honest here. We have not really. We've only spoken the Eagles probably a few times this year, man. But I still think Jalen Hurts is still an elite quarterback in this league, and he is still a great leader, and I think he's a perfect fit for what the Eagles try to do on offense. And I think that if he struggles, that's going to be very detrimental to their playoff aspirations, much like with the Ravens as well. Much like, again, what we talk about with the Ravens and the Bills so far, the Eagles are going to go as far as Jalen Hurts is going to take them. They are a very, very different team under, say, Kenny Pickett, right? So even though they still have all this great offensive talent, right? But I really want to see how Jalen Hurts looks like, man. I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan. I think he's a phenomenal quarterback, and he had another good year. It sucks that he, got injured later on in the year, but how does he look? Does he shake off the rust well? And I think that this is a good matchup for both of these teams, right? It's really going to challenge the strength and the weakness of each team. So we're in for such a great wild card Sunday. But CP, Eagles, Packers, who you got?
You see, it's hard. It's hard right now because that post-concussion Jalen Hurts is untreaded water.
I know.
But so is Jordan Love without Christian Watson.
Mm-hmm.
Know what I mean? They've been a growing pair in Green Bay.
They still have good offensive talent on receiver. So Christian Watson, he's a good wide receiver, but I think their best wide receiver, Jalen Reed,
I love
still
Jalen
healthy. Jalen Reed is an absolute stud at wide receiver, and he doesn't have stud numbers, but man, he is a difference maker on the field. They have him. They have Romeo Doubs, who has a great rapport with Jordan Love, and obviously they still have Josh Jacobs in the backfield.
They still have Josh Jacobs in the backfield, right?
It's not like I don't think the Packers are extremely dependent on Christian Watson, but his absence will be felt. I do agree with you on that.
It's an encasing thing where it's now you take one gear out of a moving machine and it's going to start running different. It's just what it is.
Yeah. Oh, and absolutely.
Christian Watson he's one of those gears that made this team work very well this year. You're going to have to give me Philly, whether it's Jalen Hurts in or out. I think they're one of those teams that is just on a different level. Green Bay is not ready just yet.
Yeah, I picked the Packers to go to the Super Bowl this year. They were my Super Bowl
Mm-hmm.
pick in the NFC. And as the season has gone on, it seems that they've really, when they're against a lot of the good teams, they don't seem to get out first. It seems for them to take like the first half to wake up offensively, and then once the second half adjustments come in, they're kind of already in a hole, and it's them trying to make this heroic comeback. And for the better part this year, they've won more than they've lost, right? And they're still a very solid team, but I think this is where I have to depart from my Super Bowl pick, and I'm going to have to pick the Eagles. I just trust them a little bit more. They can really spread the ball on offense, and man, that defense is tied for the number one scoring defense in the league. They're a strong defensive presence, a strong offensive presence, and the Packers, they slipped from, a couple weeks ago. We were like a month ago. We talked about Packers possibly contending for the NFC North. Now they slip in at the 7th seed. So like the month of December has not been kind to them. So I will take the Eagles to beat the Packers.
Gonna be a good one.
Absolutely. So let's move to the final game on Sunday night, and that is the Commanders and the Buccaneers at 8 o'clock in Tampa Bay. Now, CP, earlier you were talking about Baker Mayfield being on an MVP caliber this year. Would you like to explore that thought?
Well, again, everybody in this playoff bracket, essentially, save for a couple of names, at quarterback, have earned that to be in that conversation. Baker Mayfield, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Jared Goff, just to name a few out of the bracket. Baker Mayfield is on his second consecutive 4,000 yard season.
Also, I just want to throw in a name there, Sam Darnold as well.
And Sam Darnold,
you could also say that too. So
of course, this is my favorite matchup for Wildcard Weekend because, in my opinion, this is the only one where there's no telltale winner. To me, every game on this bracket, you can be like, yeah, this is going to be a good game, but they're going to win. Yeah, this is going to be a good game, but they're going to win. This
say
game
that about the Ravens-Steelers game? What?
Yeah.
What? Get the fuck out of here.
This game, you can't make heads or tails of. This is one of those games where it could really shift at any point for both teams. The absence of Chris Godwin is a throat cut for Tampa. Mike Evans being back, of course, helps. Baker Mayfield playing his best football helps. But like a lot of teams, the absence of one makes you linear and it makes you predictable. Washington are one of the most capitalist teams in this league. What do I mean by that? They like to capitalize every chance they get on any type of weakness they can find. They jump. And if they can find a weakness in Tampa, I think this might be a quick home send for Baker.
It's tough, man. You're absolutely right when you say that this is a coin flip game, right? Because I'm still looking at it. I'm like, man, I could see it go either way. I really can. And it's when you look at, say, let's start with the Bucs, right? I like that thought of Baker Mayfield, another 4,000-yard passing season and over 40 touchdowns, and he was missing Mike Evans and Chris Godwin for the better part of the year, and yet he still led the Bucs to their fifth consecutive division title.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we said it before, Baker found a home. And if it wasn't for the absence of Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, these numbers might have been better, which is crazy too. Like,
The idea of that is nuts.
The idea of Baker Mayfield could have
Possible
potentially
5,000-yard season.
and 50 touchdowns, which would be like
That's an
probably-
all-time season.
Yeah. So, but even still, 4,000 yards and over 41 touchdowns to be specific. But he's been absolutely unbelievable. But he's had to carry a lot of this team because their defense has not been good this year. Teams can throw on them, and that's the thing too. And the Commanders come in and they have options. They can kill you in the air or on the ground. They're just another one of those teams where it's like they're extremely talented, but I think that they're not quite there just yet. They're a little bit ahead of schedule.
I agree.
Right? We kind of thought that Washington was going to be better than they were last year, right? Obviously, out from Dan Snyder, right? You get a new head coach, a proven head coach in Dan Quinn, right? You have the second pick in the draft. You need a quarterback. Take a quarterback. You already have some good offensive talent there. You got dip your toes in free agency. Get Austin Eckler at running back. You have Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, who's been a killer vet that a lot of people may not be familiar with, but man, if you're from like Washington in that area or just an avid football fan, you know the name Scary Terry and you know Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
And they've had a lot of great wide receivers the past couple of years. Like they had, I know they're not on the team anymore, but they did have like Curtis Samuel and Jahad Dotson. And that was a good trio that they had there. But now they still are able to really open up the field. And Noah Brown has been a great fit for them in the receiving core as well. And defensively, this is kind of where Washington is kind of at with the Bucs. Their defense has not really been that good this year. Bobby Wagner's been good, and he's been a great leader, right? But their secondary is just not quite there just yet. Again, a lot of teams can throw on them. We saw the Commanders early on in the season have a lot of success, right? But they've kind of slipped a little bit. Like in the back end of the season, and now the Bucs are kind of at a little bit of a trajectory where not so much defensively, but offensively they're scoring like 40 points a game, which is absolutely insane. So it's like, to hell with the defense if we can
outscore everybody.
Exactly. And a lot of teams had that mentality too. Like for instance, the Bills, right? The Bills will be like, "Fuck it, we're just gonna put 30 to 40 points up and just." You can't outscore us, right? The Eagles, for the better part of the season, where it's like, oh, we're just going to run on you and just kind of outscore you. It doesn't matter. Ravens, done the same shit, right? And the Bucs have that same capability too, but their defense does not play complementary. Same thing with the Commanders. Their defense does not play complementary football with their offense. And it's been tough for a rookie this year, but, I mean, between the Commanders and Broncos, man, you get to make a case for either one of these quarterbacks to have Offensive Rookie of the Year. It's probably going to go to one of these two. If I had a vote, I'd give it to Jaden Daniels a little bit over Bo Nix. But that's just me. I think that, again, more of like what you were saying before with like more with less. I think the Commanders have had less successful team performances, but better individual performances this year. And that's really what's been killer for them, where it's like either their offense is clicking or their defense is clicking, but never at the same game. And that's really what's been killer for them. And if I think now that they have an offensive identity, right, and they have a leader and a quarterback to rally around, okay, there's a really good light at the end of the tunnel for the Commanders. But the Bucs right now, they have playoff aspirations now. They're like, we're in it. We earned it. We fought to be here. And damn it, we're going to fucking be in it. But, man, this is going to be a really great game because both teams can throw very well. Both teams can run very well. I'm excited for this one, CP. This one's going to be I can see why they put this one at the 8 o'clock on Sunday.
Yeah, this is my favorite game of the Wild Card weekend, other than Ravens-Steelers, of course.
I was gonna
This
say.
of the Sunday slate, this is my favorite game on the bracket.
I'm all for it, mate. But who you got?
Damn.
I'll tell you who I'm taking. I'm taking the Bucks.
Yeah.
I have a little bit more trust and faith in Todd Bowles, in Baker Mayfield, in Mike Evans, in Levante David, veterans that have been there. I trust them a little bit more than the Commanders. But man, this has been an impressive year for the Commanders. But I'll take the Bucks to win.
Yeah, you're gonna have to give me the Bucks as well. I think Washington is a year too early. I think they still need another established presence in the skill position. I think they need to really beef up that offensive line, and really you need to go out and you need to get a star pass rusher. You get one or two of those, and you guys will be off to the races. This year, congratulations on a very successful year, but I think this year belongs to Tampa.
It's funny. So both you and I think that offensive rookie of the year contenders, Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, lose in the playoffs, but yet still had successful years.
And we're split. I think Bo Nix should get offensive player of the year.
I respect it, mate. I mean, but you can make the argument for both.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
which is crazy.
I'm a fan of both.
It's crazy too with the MVP, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year. You can make arguments for so many different players because there's been so many great performances this year, right?
I think defensive player of the year is pretty much locked up by Trey Hendrickson on the Bengals for being the sack leader.
Either Trey Hendrickson, but you could also make the argument for Patrick Surtain too, who on the Broncos. Yeah. He had a cornerback. It's been a while since a cornerback has won it, but it's possible. But there are, again, so many great players this year, right? Offensive player of the year, you could probably say Jamar Chase for winning the Triple Crown. On a team that didn't even make the playoffs.
That's one of the most upsetting things. And again, not a Bengals fan by any means, but to have a Triple Crown winner, a quarterback who has the most yards and most touchdowns in the league, a number two receiver that's a 900-yard receiver with 10 touchdowns, and you have the sack leader. And you finished on a 5-game win streak, and you still missed the playoffs.
Sit down, chumps. I saw a play, or I saw a reel on Instagram where the Bengals, if 5 plays turned differently, they would be 14-3 with the number 1 seed. I was like, wow, that is pretty fucking wild, though.
It's pretty wild how the turn of the cards happen.
It's so crazy too. I want to segue into this because, again, you can talk about making different arguments for offensive rookie of the year, defensive player of the year, MVP. I think comeback player of the year is Sam Darnold. Yes. I think that's the only one where I think that is probably locked up because on Monday, and this is the final game for Wild Card Weekend, on Monday, the Vikings come to play the Los Angeles Rams. In what a fantastic way to end Wild Card Weekend. CP, can you think of a better game to end this weekend? Like, I know you really like the Commanders Bucks, man, but I'm looking at this Monday night game like this looks great. This looks like a great game.
You see, this game is going to be a lot of fun for a multiple of reasons. Again, I agree with you. Sam Darnold is 100% comeback player of the year. Mm-hmm. If he's not, that's a tragedy to the award with how well he's been playing. Shout out to him for finding a culture that really embraced him and really is showing him love and letting him showcase who he is as a player. Mm-hmm. I want to see it for another year.
I'm the same way, yeah.
I want to see it for another year in Minnesota. I think he's earned himself a contract. Mm-hmm.
He's only 27 years old.
He's only 27. He has played his best football this year, and it's not close. It's the first time he's actually fell into a stable position to play his best football versus just play for survival. I would hope at least if he wins this game, he 100% earns a playoff contract. Mm-hmm. There's no way he doesn't. If the Vikings let him go after winning a playoff game, that would be one of the dumbest franchise decisions I think that would ever be made. You can't not sign a quarterback that wins you a playoff game.
It's funny because teams don't. I remember years ago, or was it the year the Ravens won the Super Bowl? We didn't re-sign Trent Dilfer. He said, "Go, we won a Super Bowl. Go fuck yourself."
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
so there are teams that just say, "Go fuck yourself," right?
But that was a defensive Super Bowl.
Yes. There's much context behind that, but I do remember that. But teams are not shy from departing from quarterbacks, right? Hell, the Rams traded away Matt Stafford and Jared Goff. Just a quick 1-for-1 swap, right?
Yeah.
And Jared Goff brought them to a Super Bowl, right? And
Yeah.
so teams, the savvy teams, make the right moves. And I think that the Vikings kind of have been in this situation before, where like they had a player that they kind of signed off free agency, have an unexpectedly fantastic year, but what do? And so a couple of years ago, you remember before Kirk Cousins came, the year before they had Case Keenum at their starting quarterback. And he had a phenomenal year. Brought them to the NFC title game.
That was when Blake Bortles was on the Jaguars.
Yep, that was that same year. That brought them to the NFC title game against the Eagles. And again, Case Keenum balled out, right? Vikings said kick rocks. Go sign with Denver.
Kick rocks, nerd.
And we're gonna sign Kirk Cousins. So the Vikings are a very savvy organization. But I think that obviously this is a little bit different, but it's kind of got the same feel to it. I think that, again, Sam Darnold has earned his right to start for another team. I don't know if that's going to be Minnesota, but whether that is Minnesota or not, he has earned that right to start next year. As for this year, the Vikings would be foolish to not go for it all this year, because this is the best version of Kevin O'Connell's Vikings that we've seen,
and probably will see
under his tenure. I mean, for their sake, they hopefully not. Hopefully, it only gets better here, right? But this, much like again with the Commanders, right? This team overperformed, and the Vikings have they've been a dominant 14-3 team, and yet a wild card because the Lions have just been just a notch better, right? And now they come into LA to play the Rams. And I think that this is a very interesting matchup because we saw this matchup in week 5, actually. It was a Thursday night game. Vikings came to play LA. Rams were 1-4 at the time. And they were fighting to stay alive. Rams won. And won convincingly, too, because they had a strong defensive output. And when you look at that game, and you look at the game from last week against the Lions game. Now, we spoke about that Lions-Vikings game, right? That game did not turn out as we thought it did. It was a very tight game in the first half, and then the second half was all Jahmyr Gibbs, and the Vikings had a really tough time cashing out in the red zone. They were able to move the ball, but once they were in Lions territory, the field shrunk. Like, it really shrunk on them. And they had a really tough time. They went for it on a couple fourth downs, didn't get it. They were just had too many empty possessions. And
yeah, but I think,
right?
Not to cut you up, I think that is Dan Campbell syndrome. And let me explain. Mm-hmm. Dan Campbell has gotten in the heads of offensive coaches because of the way he runs his offense.
Mm-hmm.
He has gotten his team so comfortable with going forward on fourth down. They don't fear fourth down like other teams do.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're playing that for 60 minutes. You see it working on the other side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
But you're still down. And as a coach, you're like, oh, fuck, it has to be 4-down football now. But you don't have those reps at fourth down.
Yep.
So now you're in your head, you're second guessing yourself. Should I do this? Should I not do this? Where on the other side, they have full confidence. We're doing this one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
So those mistakes on fourth down and empty possessions, I don't necessarily see coming into this week. I only really see that when teams play Dan Campbell, because they are so prepared and ready to go for it on fourth down. They get in the minds of the opponents, and they make them feel like they have to, but they still fear fourth down.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And no, I agree with you too. Like his Dan Campbell's philosophy of football definitely is taken into account by these other head coaches, right? But Kevin O'Connell is not Dan Campbell, right?
No.
He doesn't practice the same way, right? Kevin O'Connell is like, again, I would compare him very much to, say, Sean McVay, where he's more offensive driven, but he has an understanding of the importance of the other side of the ball and tries to get fresh rotation of guys in there. Meanwhile, still retaining and depending on your offensive production on talented and stacked wide receivers, right? You got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Man, this is I feel bad for those defenses, man, because who do you one-on-one, right? Like
it's going to get lit up all night no matter who it is.
I think the way this game is going to be won in the trenches. And whoever makes, because these are two traditional pocket passing style quarterbacks, right? Sam Darnold's not mobile. Matt Stafford's not mobile. They can run, right? They can.
They can
don't
scramble,
like to.
but they don't run.
Yeah, we've been blessed a lot of football in recent years of like Lamar, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, quarterbacks that can run, right? These guys don't, right? So whoever wins that battle in the trenches, I think is going to come out on top in this game. And the reason I bring up the Vikings struggles from before is because a lot of their offensive struggles stemmed from defensive pressure. And that's the thing, too, is like for any pocket passing quarterback out there, if you can disrupt their timing, you have a chance. That was Tom Brady's weakness for all those years. If you're able to sustain pressure with your front four and make it hell on them in the pocket, you have a good chance to win that game. And I think the same goes for here. Because we know what they're capable of on offense, both the Vikings and the Rams, right? Both teams can absolutely light it up, right? But who makes that stop? Who gets that stop on defense?
Right. It's who steps up and makes a play and gets home. And I agree with you 100% when it comes to these two quarterbacks, because these are two quarterbacks that are known to not do well under pressure.
I mean, Matt Stafford has done well.
He's
but
a tough son of a bitch. Like, that's neither here nor there. I'm talking like when he is pressured all night.
Oh yeah,
it's
tough.
It's a much harder night for everybody.
Oh yeah,
but with the immobility that is now for the both of them, Sam Darnold simply because he's not a mobile quarterback, and Matt Stafford because he's in year 12 and he's battling what was a spinal injury last year. People forget that he had a spinal injury in his neck. He had a big injury a year before that, so his body, he's taking more and more big hits. He's been brutalized his entire career. So that has to take into effect. So if you pressure both of these teams, it's going to turn into a game that no one really wants. Everyone wants to see a shootout here. One more lap around the sun with Matt Stafford, the old cowboy, and then Sam Darnold coming in, the young gun, who is ready to show himself as a premier quarterback in this league. This game it's crazy to say that Sam Darnold is ready to be a premier quarterback in this league.
Well, it's crazy, too, that if you look at Sam Darnold's career, right, he had the biggest game of his career last week against the Lions.
Right.
Only to have the biggest game of his career since then a week later.
Right.
It's in a wild card weekend.
He's having career game after career game after career game.
And the lights, and again, it's a solo stage. Lights are bright. You're away in a hostile environment. And you're in the biggest game of your career.
Who you got?
Who I got? You're asking me who I got? I gotta be asking you. What is this? Though? So I'm gonna be very honest here, and I don't care if this is a hot take or anything like that. When Vikings are 14-3, Rams are 10-7. If I'm going to be very honest, I am more impressed with the Rams season this year than the Vikings. I have been for a team to start 1-4 and to make the defensive and offensive adjustments as the season has gone on to then be a 9-3 team. I find that very impressive compared to, say, the Vikings 14-3 season, where it's like they've again very impressive. But I think that the Rams are a little bit more battle tested, and I think that the Rams have their defense has really taken a step up in the second half this year. They have a young defense that gets to the quarterback and makes their life hell. And I think that the Rams have the stuff to do it. And I've been so impressed with the Vikings this year, and it'd be such a shame for there's such a great season to end so abruptly. But it ends in LA. And I'm taking the Rams.
Wow, you're pulling for the upset on Monday night, huh?
Mm-hmm. I'm taking the Rams.
This one's hard too, man. You look at the tail of the tape, and it's like everyone wants to see Matt Stafford get one more. This could be the last lap around the sun.
I don't think he will, but man,
I don't think he will.
He could fight for it, man. He could definitely fight for it.
This has been such a scratch and claw season for the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
I give them all the credit in the world for earning this final spot. But there's something about the redemption arc of Sam Darnold that's hard to turn away from.
Mm-hmm.
The way he has totally changed gears and the way he molds with that team, you're going to have to give me Minnesota. I think this is a one-off year for the Rams. As good as their final stretch was this year, I think this is it for them. I think it ends with Minnesota.
Ooh, man, I like it. I like that it's one of those games you could see it either way.
And you won't be mad.
And I won't be mad either way. But man, it's so tough because only one team wins. Only one team gets to move on.
The board is set. The pieces are moving.
The story of the NFL is written in the playoffs, and it starts with Wild Card Weekend.
Well, there you have it, guys. Wild Card Weekend is upon us. There's our picks for every game on the slate. Please leave a like, a comment, subscribe. We got some exciting football coming and exciting football to look forward to. So until then, we shall see you guys next week.